When picking up your kit, be sure to check the luggage tag to ensure you have the correct precinct supplies. These materials are included on the side pocket of your bag. You will have information on being a poll worker and a voter information guide. From there, we have materials that you will post on the wall. The Indiana's Bill of Rights in both English and Spanish. Next, you will have your Vote Here sign. Be sure to mark your precinct accordingly. From there, we have information on Emergency Response Guide. Next, you will have information on photo identification, both English and Spanish. As we move down, we're getting into information on the voting machine. Little quick tip guide. Also a QR code if people want to watch a video on the actual voting machine. The voting instructions will be both inside the voting machine, but we also want to post a copy outside so people can see what they're going to see on the voting machine. A map of your community in case someone's at the wrong polling location. An actual sample ballot of your precinct. And of course, this is going to change from election to election. Be sure to post those on the wall. Within your supplies, you will find this envelope that has important for delivery to an election inspector. Inside here will be various passwords as well as the list of who your workers are. Be sure to call all of them to help set up on Monday and to tell them what time to be there on Tuesday. From there, we have a nice little cheat sheet checkoff list, starting with Saturday when picking up the supplies, what to do on Monday. When you flip it over, it'll be Tuesday's instructions. This will be a listing of everything that is in your supply kit. A little helpful hint on the exact way to set up your hotspot and your iPads. This is a list of the voters within your precinct. This is an emergency list only. Don't use it unless you call us first. You'll have some stickers for poll book holders and some of your other workers. Next, we have a letter from the prosecutor. Information on electioneering. This will be important information on the pay claims when you're getting your checks. This is the actual pay claim. Be sure to print your name and address. Each poll worker will do their own Social Security number. They are also attesting if they attended the training. Signatures are at the bottom. Inspector, you're going to sign in 2 spots. Also, make sure to fill in your polling place. Very important to ensure pay claims come out on time. Here are some of the envelopes that will be in your kit. This is one of the most important ones you have. This one is for at the end of the night when you come to turn in your supplies. This is the envelope they're asking for. On here, you're going to let us know, did you use emergency ballots? Were any provisional ballots used? Did you use all your voting machines? And then it's a spot for everyone to sign off. Also in here will be your 0 proofs and your vote cards, your tally cards, and so forth. Moving down, we have this envelope contains the poll list, your precinct oath book. So at the end of the night, we're going to do a whole nother sequence on your forms book. Your entire forms book is going to go back in this envelope. This is for the receipts from your poll pad printer. Here are some miscellaneous envelopes and grand jury affidavits. The instructions are all listed on there and what is going in them. Moving on, these are some of the provisional envelopes. Now we will do a whole section on provisional ballots, but these are different envelopes. This one is for spoiled. If you accidentally spoil one and void it, you'll stick it in there. This is for if someone challenged someone at the polls due to party affiliation. And then over here will be provisional ballots if we ever had to stay open late. So this is once 6 p.m. If we had an emergency and had to stay open later, you would go to provisional ballots. Have not seen this used yet. You will have emergency ballots in your kit. And this is for total emergency failure. Please call us before using these and we will give you directions on how to do it. You'll have a whole series on this also. Provisional bag comes sealed to you with a seal. Keep it intact unless you need to use it. Again, there's a whole nother series on specifically how to use the provisionals. Here we have some instructional manuals. These is a quick guide. So if you open it up and go to any section, it'll tell you about selfies at the polls and what to do in other circumstances. You'll also receive your poll worker training, and that we give out at the training session, and we also give you a copy of it. From there, we have a manual that the State Election Division puts out. We also have some voting stickers, some extra styluses in there. Here we have your voting card and your start card, some paper clips and rubber bands and other materials, some extension cords for when setting up your voting machine and your iPads. This is what we were talking about earlier with the forms book, and again, there's a whole nother series on it, but just so you can kind of see what it looks like. Here we have some extra seals for on Monday night if you have a bipartisan team and you open your machine for the zero proof. These are extra seals to seal it back up. Inside here is your red tally card for at the end of the night. Do not open this until after 6 p.m. Here we have the 50-foot rope. So when you stretch this out, it goes to 50 feet. Here is an example of what a polling place may look like. And the 50-foot is going to do a radius. You're going to figure out what the radius would be, but you're just going to stretch the 50-foot rope out. So if it was at this polling place, I would come straight down the ramp. And within that radius, there is no campaigning and no political signs. Next, we have the iPad stand and printer. To assemble, you will have the tray. Simply squeeze the green sides, and it pops right on. From there, this is the ID stand, and it simply slides in. Works best if you look from behind. It's where the driver's license will go. Inside the white envelope will be your iPad. This will remain sealed until Tuesday morning. Again, do not open this envelope until Tuesday morning. You would break the seal, and then in here is the iPad. When turning it on, always look for your precinct. Next, we have the iPad printer, and this is going to print out the voters' receipts. All the accessories are labeled accordingly. iPad printer goes with the cords. We have some extra tapes in case you run low. This is the Infinity printer and the Infinity cords. This is used on your voting machine when doing the zero proof on both Monday night, Tuesday morning, and then your tally tape Tuesday night. This is the double talk equipment. This is what you'll attach if hearing impaired or sight impaired voters come in. They can put the headphones on and the voting machine will read to them. Moving on, you will either have one or the other, or maybe nothing if you're at a mega site, meaning multiple precincts at the polling facility. This is a smaller hotspot. Here's the cradle point, and it has little antennas that you screw on. We'll have a whole section on that. The last and final thing in this part is this is as if you were at a mega site and then you have an encoder. So not every precinct will have this, but if you're at a large facility like the fairgrounds, where there might be 6 spots there, you will have information on encoding. Everything we went over is listed here on your supply list. If you are missing anything, call us on Monday and we'll replace it.
Hi, I'm Michelle Faven, and I'm the Director of the Lake County Board of Election and Registration. And in this segment, we're going to be going over the posting materials that are in your kit. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the Voters' Bill of Rights. And this informs the voters of their rights, and in regards to maybe doing a fail-safe voting procedure, in regards to doing a provisional ballot, your photo identification, and how to get in contact with someone if you feel your voting rights have been disenfranchised. Also in here is we have a sample of what the voting machine would look like. With that, we also have the sample ballot. Now this will match with your voting machine, and it needs to match identical. You will have 3 sets of these. Post them throughout the polling place. The idea here is so that voters know exactly who and what is on the ballot prior to getting to the voting machine, so they know who they're voting for. We also have the photo identification that talks about the 4 points that the voter is going to need on their ID when they present it to the clerk, as well as a map of the voting district. Next, we're going to talk about the shoot area. Also included in the kit is a 50-foot rope. That is to be stretched out at every single polling place, and it starts at the entrance to your voting room. So in some instances, this will be outside. Within this 50-foot shoot area, there is no electioneering or campaigning. It is a good idea to use a chair or a railing to tie the rope to, and so that people can get in line as they enter to the polling place. If there is a line at 6 p.m., your judge will go to the end of the line and every person that is in line is still entitled to vote.
Please make sure you post your Vote Here sign on the exterior of the building for the voters to see as they approach. You will want to come out at the beginning of the poll day at 6 a.m. and announce the polls open, and again at 6 p.m. to announce the polls closing.
Welcome to the Microvote Infinity VVPAT voting system. In this video, we will instruct you how to set up the voting system, how to vote, and how to close or tally the system. Roll the voting booth into position where it will be used. Place the booth on its long side with the handle facing up. With assistance, place the booth on a table for easier access. Undo the Velcro straps and pull each leg out. Rotate each leg clockwise until it is locked in place. With assistance, stand up the booth. Clip the security seal and open the lid. Let's now define the components within the booth. Voting machine, VVPAT printer, power cord reel, printer and ADA port, privacy curtains. The internal components are already connected. To connect to power, feed the single cord through the back of the booth and plug it in. After the power cord is plugged in, the VVPAT will automatically turn on. Verify the VVPAT has power by confirming the green and orange lights on the front of the VVPAT are visible. To turn the voting machine on, flip the switch on the back of the machine. To set up the privacy curtains, remove the curtains from the lid, insert them into the orange brackets, pushing firmly to make sure they are secure. Now that the voting machine and VVPAT are set up, we are ready to go through the steps to start the voting machine for use. With no card inserted, push the red Cast Vote button. This can also be done throughout the day to verify the number of votes recorded. The screen will go dark after a few seconds. To bring the screen back, just hit the red Cast Vote button again. Verify the mode at the top of the machine says Locked. This confirms the voting machine has been programmed for the election, but hasn't yet been started for use in the election. Verify the county name, the election name, the election date and time, and that the precinct name is correct. If the machine is programmed with more than one precinct, the precinct will say multiple. Verify the number of votes recorded at the bottom of the screen is 0. Verify the panel number matches the tag for the booth. If county procedures require, verify that the protective count number matches the number in the paperwork provided. If any of this information displayed on the screen is incorrect, contact election headquarters for the next steps. Locate the Infinity envelope among your election materials and remove the green start card. Insert the start card as shown. Enter the security code provided in your election paperwork and hit Done. Locate the Zero Proof Tally Tape printer in the precinct kit bag. Connect the cable from the Zero Proof Tally Tape printer to the printer and ADA port located at the front of the booth. Now push the button on the voting machine next to Print Zero Proof. At this point, in order to ensure that the VVPAT is correctly connected to the voting machine, the first thing to print is a header on the VVPAT itself. Inspect the VVPAT to ensure that a header did print. Then, on the voting machine, push the button next to Yes to acknowledge that the VVPAT header printed. Now the Zero Proof report will start to print on the Zero Proof printer. Follow county procedures regarding how many to print and who signs the Zero Proof printout. To activate the voting machine, press the button next to Start Election. On the next screen, push the button next to Start. Confirm at the top of the screen that the mode is now voting enabled. Remove the start card from the machine and unplug the Zero Proof Tally Tape printer. Repeat the process on all of the machines at the polling location. Return the Zero Proof Tally Tape printer to the precinct bag and return the green start card to the Infinity envelope. The next section of the video will instruct you how to activate the voting machine for each voter and explain the voting process. Upon entering the booth to activate the voting machine for a voter, the poll worker should first ensure that the prior voter completed casting their ballot by confirming that the screen is dark, the red cast vote lights are not lit, and there is no ballot visible in the VVPAT viewing window. If any of these conditions exist, redirect the voter to a different machine and inform the head poll worker at the polling location. Activating voting machines for voters on Election Day requires the blue vote card. For use in early voting, you may be using a gray card. Please refer to your written instructions for that process. For Election Day, locate the blue vote cards in the Infinity envelope. Any vote card can work on any voting machine. Insert the vote card into the machine. If there is only one ballot style, or if the vote card has been encoded by an electronic poll book, then the message displayed is "Remove vote card. Vote card must be removed to proceed voting." In this case, follow the instructions. If there are multiple types of ballots on the voting machine and the vote card has not been encoded, then there will be selections to make, such as precinct or party, prior to removing the vote card. Once all the proper selections have been made to activate the correct ballot for the voter, then the message will appear to remove the vote card. The poll worker should then confirm that a header printed on the VVPAT printer to ensure proper functionality of the VVPAT. At the top left of the first page of the ballot, the poll worker should confirm that the correct ballot has been activated for the voter. The poll worker should provide the voter with basic instructions on how to make selections, reviewing the paper record on the VVPAT, and pressing the red Cast Vote button to cast their ballot. We will now explain how a voter makes selections and casts their ballot. On the screen, the title of the office will appear in a header above the candidates. The vote limit for that office will also appear in the header. To make selections, voters simply push the button next to the candidate they wish to select. To make a different selection, the voter would push the button next to the selected candidate to deselect them. Making selections for an office will also update the vote limit message in the office header. Voters move to the next page of the ballot by selecting Next Page in the bottom right location. When the voter reaches the last page of the ballot, the bottom right button now says Verify Vote. Now, or at any other time, the voter can press the bottom left button to review and/or change their selections. After they have made all their selections, they press the bottom right button next to Verify Vote. Once Verify Vote has been selected, the VVPAT will print the office title and candidates they selected for them to review. If there is more than one page of paper selections, they select Approve and the next page of selection prints. Once they have reached the last page of paper selections, the red Cast Vote lights are lit and they press the red Cast Vote button to cast their ballot. The voter should then confirm that their printed selections scroll up and out of view and their ballot has now been cast. Any voting machine can be equipped for voters with visual impairments. To do so, locate the DoubleTalk speech device in the precinct kit bag. Before the vote card is inserted, connect this device to the printer and the ADA port towards the front of the booth. You may offer the voter the use of the county-supplied headphones, or they may use their own. Now activate the voting machine with the vote card like you do for all voters. Guide the voter to the top left button of the voting machine. When they are ready, the voter presses this button to receive audible instructions on how to vote. When the voter is finished voting, unplug the DoubleTalk speech device and the voting machine will return to normal operation for the next voter.
Hi, I'm Michelle Fayman, and I'm the Director of the Lake County Board of Elections and Registration. And in this series, we're going to be talking about miscellaneous items in your kit. So one of those is going to be a list of your workers. Inside this envelope will contain all your workers for Election Day. Please call them in advance and ask them to meet you on Monday for setup of your voting machines, and also let them know what time you would like them to appear on Tuesday. Please let them know to bring a lunch or something to sustain them throughout the day. You can order food, but keep in mind the delivery individual cannot enter the polling place. In regards to payment, you will receive a separate sheet of paper that will tell you the date of when the checks will be sent out. On this sheet, we must have each of your workers complete name, address, city, state, and zip. They will mark if they have attended a training session, or in this case, watched a virtual one. They must also sign and provide us their social security number. As inspector, you will sign in a few spots. You'll sign as a worker. You will also attest to that these individuals worked throughout the day. It is important also to list on the front side at the polling place so that way we can pay them. On the back side of the claim, there is one additional spot that the inspector must fill out, listing their name and address. Other items that could come up on election day is you may be in what we call a mega precinct or a split precinct. And what that means, in a mega, it means that under one roof, voters will still sign in under their own precinct, but then can go to any voting machine and cast a ballot. Their individual precinct will still be listed on there. And you will know that you are in one when you activate your voting machine and you see a number of precincts. In this case, the voter would still sign in at the clerk's table. They would be given a receipt. And on the receipt, it spells out what precinct they are in. What I like to do is have a highlighter with me. When the voter gives this to me at the voting booth, I would highlight the precinct when I select it, and that makes sure I'm selecting the correct precinct. This is also used in split precincts, whereas in one precinct, they may have a split district, meaning there are maybe 2 school board districts in there. And in that case, they would have 2 separate ballots, so it is imperative that they get their correct ballot. Please use the highlighter. Fail-safe is going to be the last thing I'm going to talk about. And fail-safe is that we want people who should be able to vote to cast a vote, even if a mistake has been made. So a fail-safe, if a voter shows up and says, my name should be in the book, it's not here, you could have them do a provisional ballot, and that will allow them to cast a vote on a paper ballot, and then the election board will search it out after the fact. It could also mean it's a certificate of error. We may have father and son with the same exact name, and we may have comboed them up. So if you call the office, we may find it, and then in that case we would issue a certificate of error, and then you would allow that voter to vote. In that instance, also keep in mind to watch your audit numbers because they would not have been listed in the book. So I think they talk about that more in when she's talking about the audit section. So just keep that in mind. But we want to allow voters who should have the right to cast a vote. So a lot of times you're going to call us. If you can't get a hold of us, use the provisional ballot and allow them to vote. Also, if someone didn't bring their photo ID, doesn't mean they can't vote. It just means they're going to vote on a different method, being the provisional ballot. And then they can bring this out to us at a later date. And the very last thing is, we like to provide stickers for individuals showing that they have voted, and so that way it encourages more people to come out and vote. Please never attach this to a voter. We do not want any inappropriate touching. Simply give them the sticker, ask them to wear it proudly on election day, and encourage their friends to come out and vote. Thank you for attending our session. Hi, today we're talking about photo identification and its use at the polling place. So if you need more information, you can look at the Indiana Election Day Handbook, Section 3. It will also be in our Poll Worker Quick Guide book, Section 17. We'll go into much more detail. In essence, for a photo identification for Election Day purposes, we are looking for 4 parts. 1, does it look like me? Keep in mind that based on the season, I could be a redhead, I could be brunette, or I could be blonde, or in between. It also has to have my name. My name must conform with what is on the official poll list, or iPad. It could be Michelle R. Feynman, could be Shelley Feynman, could be Michelle R. Smith Feynman using a hyphenated name. It must also have an expiration date. Now the expiration date is going to be from the last federal election, so an even numbered year in November. Maybe you shouldn't be driving on the street because it's expired, but it could still be good enough for election day purposes. And the 4th part is it has to be issued by the state of Indiana or the U.S. government. Passports are also good. We also have some Indian tribes that are also valid, and you can look at the manual to find out more information on that, as well as military IDs. Now, if we were to look at my work ID, it has my picture, still pretty much looks like me, it has my name, but it does not have an expiration date, and it is not issued by the state of Indiana, it is issued by the county. So in this case, this photo identification would not be sufficient. Keep in mind also, new law was passed where students with state identification through a school, so their student ID, used to be good. It is no longer a valid ID. So again, driver's license, passport, either one of those are very good. If I come in and I don't have this, I forgot it at home, I can still vote today with you guys. The only difference is I'm going to do a different method. So I would do a provisional ballot. That will be in the red book. There will be a whole nother section on provisional voting. Be sure to call us. It could also mean that we made a mistake here at the office. Sometimes we have a father and a son with the same exact name, same exact address, and we have comboed them up. In that case, call us up. Try to have a few pieces of information with you when you call. Have the voter's name, their address, their date of birth. Those 3 things help us investigate. And in some cases, it could be a certificate of error, a C of E. And in that case, we will issue you a number, and that voter would be entitled to vote. One extra thing with that is make sure you update your pre-16 form in your book, because your numbers will be off. They wouldn't have been in your iPad, but they were still eligible because we gave you a number. So mark them in your pre-16 to show that your numbers are off between your iPad and your voting machine. Those forms are found in your forms book. Beyond that, you might have someone moved. Information is in your forms book. Always call us. We're here to help you. Anything you have. So, moving on. We always like to have a sticker saying that you voted. We encourage people to wear this on election day and have their friends come out and vote. Please do not ever take this off and put it on a voter. Allow them to put it on themselves. Have a great day.
Hi, my name is Joel Rodriguez. I am the Registration Administrator for the Lake County Board of Elections and Registration. Today I'm going to be showing you the poll pad assembly for the clerks on election day. In your black bag you will have your iPad, which will be in a white envelope, which will not only have precinct number as well as the iPad number. You then tear it off and you will then have your iPad ready. Okay, so now I'm going to give you a close-up view in how we set up our station for the clerks on election day. Again, you're going to have the assemblies, which will be detached. You're going to attach your base with your stem, kind of place it in there, groove it down, place it down like that. You have these 2 buttons on the sides. You're going to push that, and also making sure that the hole for your camera is facing on the upper left corner. Normally what I do is I kind of tilt it to a 90-degree angle so my iPad doesn't fall to the floor. I then will unpack the iPad from the envelope. I will open it. And while I'm opening this, make sure that your envelope number matches your printer on your iPad, and just to make sure that everything is matching so you know you got the right iPad that's going to work with your printer. Next I would do is I'll grab the iPad. I have the camera there. Here's my hole for the camera. I'm going to place it gently, and I'm going to snap all 4 corners. Then I'm going to tilt it back to me, grab my ID tray, and I'm going to slide it right in, and there you go. Next, we have the MiFi or Jetpack. There is a power button at the top. If you hold the button for 3 seconds, you will see the MiFi pop up. That's indicating that the MiFi is powering on. Next, you're going to look at, on the upper left and right hand corners, you have your signal strength as well as your battery power life. So on the signal strength, we want at least 2 bars on your MiFi in order to get a great signal for election day. So if you walk it around the room, and if you're near a window, if you get that 2 bars, just kind of place it there and pretty much leave it there for the rest of the election. You should be fine. Precincts that need a stronger signal will receive a cradle point instead of a MiFi. And to assemble a cradle point, they do come with 4 pedals. If you place your pedal and twist, and if it doesn't fit, it's because it's on the wrong side. So make sure that your pedals do fit the groove, and you place it upwards. And I'll go ahead and twist this one here for you. we go. You plug it in and you're ready to go. Next we have our printer. On the top of the iPad printer, you have a number which should match your iPad number at the front. Okay? The first thing you want to do is make sure that the connection of the power cables are connected, including the iPad printer. There is a second cable which needs to connect to the box and then along to your outlet. Once you've done that, you will then power on your printer. You'll see a green indicator light to show that the printer is powered on. Okay, so you have all three of your assemblies in front for the clerk for an election day. The first item you're going to turn on is going to be your MiFi or Jetpack. The next thing you want to turn on is going to be your iPad printer. But once you've done these two, you then can go to your PolePad, and on the upper left-hand side, there's a little button there. Just hold that button until you see the Apple logo, and that's indicating that the iPad is powering on as well. Okay, so once you get to this screen here, you'll notice there's a P in the center of the iPad on the bottom portion there. Just go ahead and click on it. It's going to give you all the information you need about your precinct as well as election day. Here it says Lake County 11/3/2020. It'll have your precinct location on there as well. On the upper right hand corner, it'll have your printer icon as well as your Wi-Fi icon. Both icons, if you follow the steps earlier, both icons should be green. Go ahead and click Get Started. Republican sign in, Democratic sign in. And once you're in the main menu here, this is the menu for election day. If you notice, there's two parts to this. You have your scan barcode as well as your manual entry. On the scan barcode, it's really simple. You go ahead and you ask for the voter's driver's license or state ID. And what you will be scanning is the back portion of their driver's license or state ID. You place it on the ID tray. You go ahead and hit scan the barcode. Make sure there's no glare on the barcode. The name will pop up. You go ahead and click that. Again, you ask the voter whether his address has changed or unchanged. In this case, the address has not changed. You go ahead and click address unchanged. There's a separate video if the voter's in the wrong precinct and he's wanting to vote in that precinct. There's a provisional button here where we do have a separate video that sort of explains that. And so definitely watch that video as well as it relates to provisional voting. Once that's correct, the voter will then sign, and you get to the next screen here. On this screen would have two signatures that you can verify, make sure that the signatures are correct. Click submit. It would then print out a receipt, which on the receipt would actually have the voter's precinct as well. When you get to the machine, you can then process the voter accordingly. On the manual side, you click manual entry. You enter the voter by adding 3 letters of their last name, 3 letters of their first name, and as soon as you locate, go ahead and click on it. Again, you verify with the voter, has the address changed or unchanged. If they say that it has unchanged, you then go to the next screen, click accept. The voter then will sign. Once they complete that, you have the signature verification page. And again, once you click submit, your receipt will then pop up where you can actually give that to the judge who takes the voter to the voting machine. So if a voter has moved and would like to vote at that precinct one last time, there's two ways again of pulling up the voter. I'm going to use a manual entry. And let's just say we pulled up the voter. You read the address to the voter states that he has moved. You then go back and you pull the voter to the side and have them fill out VRG 412. They will then come back in line. You then pull the voter back. You'll click address change. Please verify the form was completed before processing. In this case, the voter did complete the form, so you click continue. Click accept. The voter will then sign. You click done signing, verification of signature page. You then click submit, and the voter can now vote at the machine. Say, for example, the voter's in the wrong precinct and he needs to know what precinct he needs to go to vote. You can do the manual entry or scan his driver's license or state ID. In this case, I'm going to use the manual entry. And I can scroll up or down, just try to locate that voter. And of course, if this is a voter here, I let the voter know the location of where he needs to be. There's the precinct information as well. If you need to pull a piece of paper, just click print test. You can actually write that precinct as well as the name of the location where he needs to be.
This video is going over the encoders for any combined precincts, which are precincts that have multiple precincts on their voting machines. So, first thing you want to do is plug in the encoder into the side where the power plugs into the iPad. Now, throughout the day, you will need power because the encoder does use more. You'll have to use these cords we provide because the encoder does not use Apple for its power. You will still have to use the Apple plug from your box for the USB side. And then you just plug it into the bottom. Make sure to gently plug it in and get it in right. Okay? Now, you'll bring up your PollPad app. Hit get started. And you have to put in your password. Once you put in your password, you'll see you have the scan barcode and manual entry. So, just like normal, hit scan barcode, put their ID in. Want to make sure there's no glare on the license. Okay, select that voter. Address unchanged. If it's unchanged, make sure they have the correct address again. Hit accept. The voter will sign in. Done signing. Compare signatures, again shows the information. Hit submit. Now it asks for the vote card to encode it. So you'll have your vote cards. To encode it, you will turn it to where the metal contact is facing you. Gently put it into the slot on the side. You'll see it turn blue. Then acknowledge the card. Then you'll hit create card at the top. You'll create the card, print the receipt. You'll see that person is checked in. So you want to keep the card and receipt together for that voter so the judge can then put them into the voting machine. When the judge puts them in the voting machine, Put the vote card in with the blue facing you into the voting machine. Wait till the machine acknowledges it. Then take the vote card out and the ballot will come up for the voter. And it's the same with manual entry. You'll find person, last name in the first box, first name in the last box. Search. Select the voter. Make sure their information matches their license. Address unchanged. Everything matches, they agree. Hit accept. They'll sign in. Done signing. Compare signature. Information is the same. Hit submit. Again, asks you to create the card. So you have your blue vote card. Metal part facing you. Gently into the side. Give it a second or two to acknowledge the card. Again, blue there. Precinct there. Hit create card. Says that person is checked in. Take the receipt, remove the card, and head to the voting machine. Now, in case the card does not encode correctly, we have what we're going to call a blank MasterCard, and we'll have on here, do not encode this card. Do not put this card in the encoder. This is for manual entry only. Open the envelope, take out that vote card. You'll insert into the voting machine, and you'll have to manually select the precinct for that voter. Once you've selected the precinct, then you'll take the vote card out, and the voter can vote. Then put this card immediately back into this envelope, because again, it's not to be used unless you have to use manual entry on the voting machine. Otherwise, you use the encoder throughout the day as normal.
Hi, today we're talking about the forms book. This is a very important aspect of the voting process. So the very first thing on our forms book is it is going to list you the quantity of how many are in your forms book, the name of it, and then the form number. All forms will stay inside this forms book throughout the entire day, and you will return the book completely intact. So the very first thing we're going to talk about is the PRE1, which is the oath of your poll workers. And if you're anything like me, to make things go a little bit smoother, I love my little tabs. This can be with Post-it notes, anything you want to use, but it does make it easier for finding your actual forms. So again, going back to the oath. This is going to be where we swear in all of our poll workers, the inspector, the judges, and the clerks. Also, if you have to replace anyone throughout the day, you will come back and do a new oath for your replacement worker. After that, we have the ballot agreement. The ballot agreement states that our voting machine matches our sample ballot and that everything is exactly the same. After that, we have the electronic poll book. It's a certification showing that when we opened the poll books, there was no one registered on there. Up here at the top, next page, it'll say what time we opened and closed our voting machine in our polling place. So at 6 a.m. we should be opening, and at 6 p.m. we should be closing. Down here in step 6, this is where everybody always makes this mistake. This is asking you how many people are in line at 6 a.m., 12:30, and 6 p.m. That is just a quick little number, 3 people in line. What I always get is 57, 75. That's how many people have voted. This one here, just how many people are in line. Small numbers. Okay. So the next form we're going to come about is the PRE3. That is an affidavit of assistance. A voter can have anyone they wish assist them. It cannot be a union member, their employer, or a member of their union.
Next is the PRE3, which is an affidavit of assistance. A voter can bring in someone of their choice to assist them. That can be anyone other than their employer or a member or an agent of their union. So they can bring in their child, spouse, parent, friend, whomever, but that voter must have themselves and the assister sign this in advance. Now, if they want someone, they didn't bring someone, then they can have both judges assist them, and then both judges will sign off that they assisted the voter. This is to be done prior to the entry into the voting machine. Okay. Next is the PRE5. This is a replacement. If a voter comes in and on your iPad it shows that they've already received an absentee ballot, and the voter says, I never received it. If that's the case, they are going to fill out the PRE5, and that replaces their absentee ballot, and they would be entitled to vote on the voting machine. Now, if a voter brings in their forfeited ballot, you can accept it. They don't need to fill out the form. It is only if they are not bringing one in with them. Never received it. PRE5. The PRE8 is a replacement worker. Sometimes throughout the day you may have to disqualify a poll worker, or two, there may be an emergency and your poll worker has to leave. Reasons why we would have to reject someone would be maybe as they're taking their oath of office they realize I am related to a candidate and cannot serve. So if that's the case, we will ask the first available voter if they would like to serve, and if they are qualified, they will fill out the replacement form. Now, once they do this, make sure you go back to your oath, have them sign the oath, and then also update the pay claim. And on the pay claim, you will prorate their pay, so you're just going to put in the time they got there, and we'll take it from there. The ABS, the PRE9. This is if a voter is in the voting machine and they accidentally walk away without hitting the cast vote. Your first thing is going to call that voter back and say, excuse me, can you come back and just hit your cast vote on the voting machine? If by chance they got away before you were able to catch them, then both of the judges will go inside the voting machine and hit the cast vote button for the voter. Do not touch any other buttons. You will just hit the cast vote button. And then this form will be filled out showing that you did that. Okay, moving on. PRE10 is for if you were to use emergency ballots. Emergency ballots are only used in the event of total machine failure. If you have 4 voting machines and one goes down, you keep using the other 3. Now, if you had 4 and there was a major power outage and you couldn't use any of the voting machine, then you're going to go to the emergencies. You will fill out this form. Once you fill out this form, on the front of your number 1 envelope, you will also check the box saying we used emergency ballots. Be sure to call the election board prior to using them for us to give you an update on it and authorize it for you. Okay. Pre-16. This is mandatory. And so what this form is going to do is at the end of the day, you are going to match up how many votes you had on your voting machine and how many people signed in on your iPad. And on the back of the form here, there's like a little schedule. So you can put in all your voting machines, your iPads, and so forth, and add them up. Now, it's also going to ask you if there were any differences. Maybe I had 151 people sign in, but I had 152 on the voting machine. I'm off by 1. Why is that? It could be that we couldn't find a name in the poll pad. And if that's the case, you're going to write it in over here what the discrepancy was. They found a voter, we had comboed them up, and that's why they went in our poll pad. Sometimes it could be one of the other forms we're going to hit, which is I'm going to get to in a second. Sometimes a voter was in line, signed in, had an emergency, and had to leave. If that's the case, document it so we know why you are off in your count. Very, very important. And if you keep up with this throughout the day, you won't have any problems because you'll always know what that issue was where there was an anomaly. Okay. The next one is the PRE18. That is, guess what? You don't need it because it's for a municipal election. We just threw it in accidentally, so don't worry about that one. Okay, PRE19. This is another spot where we could have that anomaly. So the only people that are allowed to leave and come back to your polling place, like once they signed in, are public safety officers, firemen, policemen, first responders. If all of a sudden they're in line waiting to use the voting machine and they get a call and they have to get dispatched, they have to take off and go save someone maybe. So in that case, you're going to document that those voters
first responders are eligible to come back and then cast their vote. So they're the only ones, but you need to fill this out so you know who left and again, why your numbers are off. Next is the VRG 412, and this is going to be probably one of your most used forms. This is for when a voter signs in on the poll pad and you ask them to confirm their address and they go, oops, I'm no longer at that address. You're going to pull out this form. This is used if someone moves within Indiana within 30 days before the election. It's also used if someone moves regardless of time, still within Lake County and the congressional district. It's also used if someone got canceled from their voter registration record, but they're still at the same address. They will fill out this form and then they're eligible to vote on the voting machine. Now the thing here is they're going back to their original precinct where they were registered to vote. Next is the VRG 11. A voter comes in, says, I registered to vote, and my name is not in the poll list. And we can't find them here at the government center. You call us up and we still can't find them. We want to make sure that they're set and ready for the next election, so we're going to have them fill out the VRG 11. In some cases, they may be doing a provisional ballot also, and that'll come into another section that we're going to talk about that on though. Okay, next thing. Next is the VRG 14, and this is a request to cancel. Every now and then we'll get a parent or family member that comes in and says, my son or daughter keeps getting mail about the voting, but they haven't lived here in 5 years or so. They've moved away to another state. Offer to give them one of these forms and they can take it home, get it to their son or daughter, and then we will gladly cancel them off our records. And last but not least is the VRG 15. And this is a presidential only voting. So this is if someone moved, formerly resided in Indiana, lost their residency less than 30 days before the presidential election, normally qualified to vote. So if they moved within 30 days before the election, out of state, and they want to come back, they get to vote for president only. Now, on the voting machine, there is no presidential only ballot, so you will give them a provisional ballot and they will vote in just the presidential race. And that's the end of our forms book. Remember to keep everything completely intact. If you have any questions or concerns, give us a call.
Today we're going to be going over provisional ballots. Hi, we're just going to go over a few notes for provisional ballots. Everything that you need to do a provisional ballot is held within the red provisional bag. Provisional ballots are the fail-safe. This is what we use to resolve issues at the polling location and try to remove confrontation at the polling location. Whenever you need to do a provisional ballot, the first thing you're going to do is call the office. You're going to call the Lake County Board of Elections office in Crown Point at 219-755-3795 and talk to the staff. They may be able to resolve some of your issues just over the phone. So the most common reasons that we have to do a provisional ballot are the person is not found in the poll pad and it was not able to be resolved by staff over the phone. The second reason is that the voter was unable to provide identification or a driver's license, in which case they do have 10 days to provide that to the office for their provisional ballot to be able to be counted. Lastly, the most common reason that we have is that the voter is not a U.S. citizen. So if you need a fail-safe procedure, you're going to go to the provisional ballots and follow the steps. So the first thing we're going to do when you need to use a provisional ballot is get the provisional ballot bag from your black bag, which contains all the materials we're going to need. The first thing you will do is break the seal and open the bag, remove all of the contents of the red bag. The first item we have is the provisional ballot booklet, which comes in the red bag, and it has all of the instructions for completing a provisional ballot, as well as sample forms for you to use while you're completing all of your paperwork, reminding you to include your initials on the secrecy envelope and on your ballot, a sign-in sheet, make sure that your voters sign, And we have the Pro 9 forms, which are the instructions for the provisional voter. Once you have all your materials ready, you will start by getting out the secrecy envelope, the sample ballot, and your ballot card. Next, we have our sample ballot, which contains the numbers that the voter will use that corresponds to the ballot. We have the ballot that they will fill out. Please make sure that it is initialed by a Democrat and a Republican and includes the precinct number. And we have the secrecy envelope, which also needs to be initialed by a Democrat and a Republican, and this holds the ballot. Next, we will be looking at the envelope, which contains the Pre-4 and the Pro-2 on the back. Once you have all of the materials ready for your voter, you will begin by filling out the Pre-4 form on the envelope, as well as the Pro-2. On the Pre-4, the inspector or judge will be completing the top portion, making sure to list the reason why the provisional ballot is needed. The inspector will be signing as the notary in this case. The voter will be completing the bottom portion of the Pre-4. The voter will also be completing the top portion of the Pro-2. The bottom portion of the Pro-2 is reserved for the Board of Elections to complete, so this portion will be left blank. You will then give the voter the envelope, as well as the sample ballot, the secrecy envelope, which is where the voted card will go, the pink instruction page, and a number 2 pencil. Once the voter returns the materials to you, they will have the ballot card inside the secrecy envelope, which goes into the Pre-4/Pro-2 and sealed. You will collect the number 2 pencil, the sample ballot, and the pink instruction page. You will hold on to these for the next provisional voter. Your envelope will be placed in the red bag where staff knows to look for it. And be sure to mark on your white envelope number 1 that you have used provisional ballots by checking the yes. Thank you for all that you do. It's because of what you do that we are allowed to have clean and efficient elections.
After the polls have closed and all eligible voters in line have voted, then you can begin the tallying process. Locate the Infinity envelope. Within this envelope, locate the small tally envelope corresponding to each voting machine. Reminder, do not open these small tally envelopes until the polls are closed. Match each small tally envelope to the corresponding voting machine at the location by the serial number on the envelope. Open the envelope and remove the tally card. Confirm that the serial number on the back of the tally card matches the voting machine as well. Insert the red tally card into the voting machine and enter the security code provided in your election paperwork and hit Done. Select the Tally button. The voting machine will now tally and go into mode Tallied. Locate the zero-proof tally tape printer that was used in the morning, plug the printer in and turn it on. Select the Print Tally button. Print as many copies as your county requires. Remove the tally tapes from the printer and follow county procedures for signing the tapes. Remove the tally card from the machine and place the card and the tally tapes back in the small tally envelope, or follow county procedures if different. This machine can now be closed. Locate the small tally envelope for the next voting machine and repeat the tallying printing steps for each machine at the polling location.
any ADA equipment you might have at your polling location, probably where you found them, whatever room you found them in. Okay, the movers will come the next day or two to come pick them up. Just leave that there.